There's this video on YouTube, I think it's called Salad Mug. It's like a short film. Anyway, the guy that made that, I'm forgetting his name right now, but he's a fucking blender wizard. Salad Mug is an amazing short film. Well, fallen over. It's an amazing short film made almost entirely in Blender by basically just this one guy over the course of many years, and it's just fantastic. And once he gave a talk at the Blender convention discussing his own techniques, and during that talk there's a moment where he shows two renders, one he made when he first started out and one he made more recently, and you know, to show them side by side, obviously the massive difference in how far he's progressed. And he explains the difference is that one of them took him 4 hours and the other one took him 4 months. I didn't like that either. Let me check the script here real quick. Yes, I believe what's next is me to say, what is this, a no thank you video with more than 2 pixels? That's not supposed to be a thing. What? A no thank you video with more than 2 pixels with audio that you can actually understand? But that's not supposed to be a thing. I'm not supposed to do those anymore. I'm not supposed to do those anymore. Think about the bandwidth. You know, everyone's been making scripted videos recently. I've made my fair share of scripted videos. Hell, I even did one recently, and you know what? I just don't think they're me. They're just not me. You know, I have a particular, very stream of conscious, sort of abstract writing style. This is not incorrectly. Sort of all over the place writing style, and I hate planning out scripts before I write them. They just don't work when you read them out. Like, they just sound weird. I mean, I think I could put one together. I did. And sort of try and make it work, but I'd rather just put them on my blog, link in the description. So, you know, just if you want to see written things, just go to the blog. What's the point in writing something just to read it out? It's already written down. Put it on a blog. You don't even have to worry about the botnet. So, no thank you, what have you been up to lately? Well, let me get some make good video juice in me. Today we're drinking the legendary Tanglefoot, disgusting beer. And anyway, it's not only disgusting, it's disgusting and expensive. What I've been doing is playing a lot of Team Fortress 2. You know, I saw this save Tf2 stuff going around and it made me miss the game. You see, in the past I had about 100 hours in Tf2, which is not very much, as a heavy main of all things. Why did I main heavy in the past? Well, I was really young. It was the first online multiplayer shooter I'd ever played, except for MW2 at a friend's house from time to time. And I tried out all the classes in heavy. I'm sorry to all the non-existent heavy mains watching. I know you're not there because no one mains heavy, because it's extremely boring. The only reason I did chance to do it is because I was terrible at video games and had never played one before. And you don't need to do anything to get kills as heavy. You're just a human sentry turret. You just stand there and tank as much damage as you can, and make sure your mouse is always. You try and follow people with your mouse, right? It doesn't take any skill. No offense to all the heavy mains, but you know, being the medic who's healing you takes skill. You just stand there getting healed by a medic and spin around so that try and keep the other team in your crosshair at all times. It's not exactly the most skillful class. But right now, the main thing that actually got me back into TF2, I was thinking about it, it was in the back of my mind because of this save TF2 stuff going on, and then I stumbled across a video. Well, here's what happened, is I watched a video by 3 Clicks Philip, or 2 Clicks Philip maybe, which was about the Steam Deck, and he was talking about how you can use the gyro controls along with flick stick controls a sort of hybrid gyro/flick stick control style, which if you don't know what that is, look it up. And that some people get good at this, that it's technically possible to actually play an FPS game well on a controller if you use these gyro/flick stick hybrid controls. And he showed as an example this video of a guy in TF2 who had apparently learned to do this very well and was flying around the map at incredible speeds. And I thought to myself, that's not what I remember TF2 being like. Like, even when I tried rocket jumping, I never flew around. You fly up in the sky, but not like forwards around the map at these crazy speeds. That looks fun. And what's he doing off those ramps? Like, sort of landing at ramps and going up and air strafing? This is exactly the sort of stuff I like to do in I wish I could do in CSGO, but that game is anti-fun. And he clicks Philip, links to that guy's video in the description. It happened to be a video by a guy called SolarLight. So I go down to the description and I watch the SolarLight video, which is called Why Controllers in TF2 brackets They Don't Suck brackets Here's Why. Strange name for a video, but I watched that video and it looked like he was having lots of fun. And he was playing TF2 in a way that I'd never seen anyone play TF2 before. And I've come to find out that he was maining a subclass called Demo Knight and doing something called trimping, which I had no idea existed up until this point in my life. So, to any TF2 players who are watching this video, to any TF2 gamers, I now main Hybrid Demo Knight. And I'm learning to trimp across maps. It's extremely fun. It's the most fun I've had playing a video game in years. Here's why TF2 is fun. I'm constantly complaining about how I just want to do the silly shit in CSGO. Right? Like I like all of the silly, buggy source mechanics, like surfing, b-hopping, edge bugs, crouch bugs, all of this stuff, and silly ways, funny ways of getting kills, knives and Zeuses and standing on people's heads and run boosting and all of this silly stuff. The stuff that's fun in the game, the stuff that is kind of janky and not necessarily competitively viable, but is still like skill-based and not just sort of like stupid shit, right? But CSGO is very, there was a time when you could rank down to silver on purpose and do that because silvers were bad, but you can't do that anymore because the skill floor has raised after the game being out for like over a decade. So, that made me get bored of playing that way in CSGO because you couldn't pull it off anywhere because no one would let you. The game has evolved, the meta has changed to deal with it, and also, even though I started b-hopping in CSGO before Franz J ever posted a fucking YouTube video, now every time I go on Nuke, which is also my favourite map because it's the one that lets you b-hop the most and do more movement, everyone just says, fucking mic spams me and calls me Franz J. I don't want to fucking do that. I fucking learned to b-hop in Half-Life 1. This bitch plays fucking... Anyway, sorry, off topic. TF2 is not like that. There are many meme playstyles that are not necessarily competitively viable, but you can pug stomp with them if you get good. You can go around and still have fun with them, even if they're not necessarily competitively viable, because the game isn't 100% centered on 5v5 competitive, ultra competitive, rank up gameplay. It's centered around being a fucking game, being a fun game. And so that's what I'm doing. Now, for those of you who haven't played TF2 for however many years like I hadn't and have never heard of Demo Knight, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but Demo Knight is essentially the Demolition Man, Demo Man with a sword and a shield and some booties or something. Essentially, the entire class revolves around two mechanics. The first mechanic, well, really it all revolves around one mechanic, which is the shields let you sort of dash forwards. I forget the exact name for it in the game, but if you mouse 2, you'll sort of like run as if you're like, the game treats your character as if it's holding W. So when you strafe, like if you, anyway, and you'll sort of dash forward at high speeds, and so because of that mechanic, it allows for two things. It allows for the main way that you win as the class, which is sort of your main move, your combo, and the combo is when you do this mouse to dash into another person, you will perform a shield bash, which means that when you run into them, it will inflict damage on them. And then, if you quickly slash with your sword, depending on how depleted your charge meter is, you will do crit damage. So, shield bash into someone, immediately sword bash them, you can get them down pretty low, sometimes even one-shot them depending on your build, and then when you get a kill, it refills your meter and you can dash away. So sort of dash in, get a kill, and then either dash to the next target or dash away to safety and heal, something like that, right? It's a nice game loop, and it's a nice satisfying combo. And the other thing that this dashing move allows, which is kind of a bug, is trimping, which is when you dash into a slope without holding W. So if you dash into, well, it's complicated. Sometimes it'll let you hold W depending on the steepness of the slope and some other source engine jank. But pretty much if you sort of air strafe into the slope, only holding a side direction, not holding W, normally when you dash, your character sort of sticks to the ground. So if you go up a slope, your character will sort of stick to the ground. But if you dash sideways, your character will fly off the slope, and then if you fly off the slope and air strafe in the air, it exponentially adds speed to your character, so you can go flying across the map. Put the clip of me doing it here. Editing, thank you. Boom. That's what trimping is, and it's extremely fun, and it's impossible to act. It's a completely gimmicky playstyle. Like you're not, unless you're literally Solar Light, who is the guy that I saw the video of, who's probably the best demo night main on YouTube that I've found, by a long shot. Unless you're him, you're never gonna get kills with it. Once in a while, maybe. It's just a stupid fucking movement mechanic, but it is incredibly fun to do, and I don't fucking care, because it's not CSGO, it's TF2, and no one's gonna tell me, bro, play the game seriously or whatever, because it's not a fucking game like that. It's a game where everyone has their unique little playstyle, and people play to have fun, and we mock tryhards in this game. In TF2, there are people called friendlies who just don't fight. They just sit in a corner doing emotes and stuff. They just don't even participate, and no one has a problem with them. Everyone's just like, yeah, that's just a friendly. Like, they just exist in this game. It's brilliant. It's wonderful. This is what all video games should be. And I know that it has a botting problem. That's only in the Valve servers. Like, I know that it has a botting problem, so I played one match on a Valve casual server, got insta-headshotted by bots, left the server, and just play on community servers, and none of them have this problem. I have never encountered a bot on a community server. I encountered one guy who might have been cheating, but I'm pretty sure he was just cracked. Some people in the chat were saying he was cheating, but he was responding back to them, and I'm pretty sure he's just a really fucking good, I don't even remember what class he was playing, but I think he's just really good. So yeah, I like the memes. I like the memes, man. I like the fucking meme classes. It's fun. I said I play Hybrid Night because, so I've only been playing TF2 for 3 days, and I'm having the most fun I've ever had. Actually, I'm starting to get a bit bored of doing the same thing, so I've switched it up a bit. Instead of doing a pure demo night, I am switching to a sort of a hybrid night, which means not only using the sword, but also using a more traditional weapon. And you'd think, oh, you're using the grenade launcher like a normal hybrid knight. No, I'm using the loose cannon, which is another meme weapon that is like objectively worse than the grenade launcher. But you can hit something. The way that the grenade launcher works is that you fire a projectile, and then exactly 1 second or 2 seconds after it's fired, it explodes and does splash damage. But it also damages enemies if it hits them. And you can sort of pre-charge the timer by holding down the button before you fire, so you have to like judge. It's a very, very high skill ceiling weapon that I fucking suck with because I just started using it today, and I'm awful. I'm so bad. I'm so impossibly bad with this weapon. It's hilarious. I'm still somehow getting kills, but it's bad. And the reason that this is the funny weapon is because if you hit a player with the projectile and it explodes at the same time, it makes a silly noise and a little symbol comes across their head, pops up, that says double donk, and it's fucking serotonin. It's fucking dopamine. It's funny. It's good. It's fun. TF2, fun game. Good game. And I'm pretty sure, mark my words, that Valve is going to update TF2 very soon. And in this update, they are going, maybe not very soon, but fairly soon. And in this update, they're going to remove random crits. So that is my prediction. They're going to remove random crits from TF2 as a sign of solidarity with the community. That's what's going to happen. This is my prediction. I'm a genius. I can see the future. They're going to remove random hits from TF2. Boom. Drugs. It's time to do some drugs. It's time to do some motherfucking drugs. Now, unlike some people in the Denposphere, I have only good taste in drugs. I don't do none of those dog shit drugs that are illegal because they're shit. This is my drugs. You know what I'm kind of tired of? You know one thing that I'm kind of a little bit sick of, a little bit tired of. Let me just check the script here real quick. Ooh, yeah, it says in the script that I'm supposed to talk about this now. Ooh, yeah, let me just checking the script. Yeah, let me put my glasses on for the aesthetic purposes. Yeah, now we're digital. I'm a little bit tired of living in a world where any emotion other than happiness or neutrality is considered some sort of personal failing or illness or brokenness. I'm kind of tired of living in that world. I don't like this prevailing ideology. You know what? Yesterday, I just felt like shit for about the second half of the day. I just felt like absolute dog shit. Not in like a depressive kind of way, but in a misanthropic kind of way. I just hated everyone, and I hated myself. I was just bitter. Mean, bitter, and angry at the world. I was just looking at every single human, and I was just like, you're not worth shit. Like, I just felt angry at everything for existing. And you know what? It wasn't fun. I definitely wasn't fun. I couldn't call it type 1 or type 2 fun. Nothing about it was enjoyable. Like, I was self-aware of what was happening. I was like, I'm experiencing this emotion right now, this bitterness that I'm not necessarily in control of. But you know what? I just wallowed in it. And my experience was deepened. My experience of life gained further depth because of it. I'm tired of living in a world where any emotion other than happiness or neutrality is considered illness or something to be fixed. Some examples of this, I think the most prevalent example of what, the way this manifests is in the workplace. You've probably heard of this idea that, like, in the workplace, can you imagine how chastised you would get as in the neoliberal workplace, in the control society workplace, if you show any active emotion other than absolute joy to be there. If you work in a factory, in a disciplined society, of course you're fucking grumpy. No one gives a shit, right? Just get on with your work, be grumpy, who cares, right? In a neoliberal control society, if you're unhappy at work, then this is a personal failing of you, right? If you post on social media about how you don't like your boss, well, this is this is unacceptable, right? Any sort of, there's a book about this, I think it's called Smile or Die. I haven't actually read it, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. A lot of people have talked about this. I just don't like it. I don't like any of this. We don't like what's happening here. We don't like it. Is this sort of... It's not just that society has, or the ruling ideology has this aversion to any emotions other than happiness or neutrality. It's the culture as a whole has a really weird relation with suffering and sadness as it exists now, because you have this sort of predominant ideology that I just said, but then you also have this counter signal that sort of takes it too far in the other direction, or not to say too far, but just sort of like a very vapid sort of surface level counter signaling that still remains within the framework established by the neoliberal order. So I'm talking about like sort of a low peep, you know, like emo shit, you know, this sort of like making sadness a type of, you know, maybe they don't know this consciously, but I remember when I was an emo and a teenager, you know, I think it kind of stems from this idea of like this idea you're supposed to be happy all the time, and it's sort of rebellion against that to make sadness part of your identity, to be like, no, look, I am sad all of the time, I rebel against your ideology. But this still ultimately buys into the idea that being sad all the time is not something you're supposed to be. It's a kind of an individualistic thing. And it's something that's supposed to be rebellious because you're not supposed to be that, right? And so it still buys into this ideology, and especially it still buys into this ideology of brokenness or illness related to any emotions other than happiness and neutrality. That it's a personal brokenness, something that is to be delegated to the medical class rather than you know, some sort of problem with the way society is structured, or not a problem at all, just a normal part of human experience. Or who's to say what's normal and what's not normal, you know? And another part of this sort of weird societal aversion to any negative emotion, you know, if I were to pick like the most natural... Oh shit, I'm getting the call. One sec. Hold on. I had a bit of a fucking bypass there. I had a bit of a fucking half an hour break there. Where was I in the script? Ah yes. So one of the most natural forms of suffering, if not the most natural thing that I could imagine, way to experience pain and negative emotion, is hunger. Right? In the wild, animals are essentially driven by the need for food and water, right? Feeling the pain of hunger is maybe the most natural process of pain of all time. Now, of course, we evolved to enjoy and seek out food which has a high calorie density, food that we wouldn't have to find too much of it and eat too crazy much of it, and it would give us loads of calories to power us so we don't starve to death. And the best ones at doing that are carbohydrates. And so we evolved desires for carbohydrates and fats and all of these processed carbohydrates and white sugars and stuff like that, right? Which in our natural environment would be pretty rare, and so we evolved to sort of love this shit, because if you find it, you better eat that shit up because there ain't too much of it, right? But nowadays, we mostly eat that. We got too good at making it, right? We got ridiculously good at making carbohydrates cheaply and easily. Refined carbohydrates like white flour and corn and rice, white rice and stuff, right? We got way too good at it, and so we, you know, me, eat a little too much of it, right? Eat a little too much of it, get a little fat, get a little health problems associated with it, and all of these other problems, because it's too good, it's too delicious. We don't generally experience in the developed Western world, or any developed part of the world, this hunger that we evolved to experience, and we avoid it, and we fill our lives with this hedonistic pleasure of enjoying white flour. And you best bet I fill my life with the hedonistic pleasure of enjoying white flour. If you knew how many pizzas I eat a week, you would be like, no wonder you're fat. And I'd be like, yeah, no wonder I'm fat, because pizza's good as fuck. And then on the other, so you have that, and then on the other end of the scale, you have this modern phenomenon of this sort of health cult, where people sort of go way too far the other direction, deprive themselves of all of these nutrition and stuff in the favor of salads and all this bullshit. You have these health trends which are often dangerous or misleading or extreme, because people want to believe that there's some sort of trick to it. There's never been any trick to it, right? People want to believe there's some sort of trick to it. You get these crazy dietary trends like keto, or or veganism, or any of these things, right, which extend even beyond diets in the case of veganism. But that's been around for a long time. Vegetarianism goes back thousands and thousands and thousands of years, right? But what I really want to analyze is the opposite of our modern aversion to any negative emotion with regards to hunger, the sort of which that existing generates anorexia and bulimia as problems, right? In an environment where everyone's starving, no one has anorexia or bulimia, right? This doesn't exist. It's in an environment of plenty, in this pain-averse, pain-avoidant environment, where anorexia and bulimia suddenly happen, which are sort of built off of this concept that neoliberal society can't recognize, or can't I guess recognize was the best word. These two opposing concepts of pain and pleasure being really sort of two sides of the same coin. Insert the Nietzsche quote about that. Look, Nietzsche, I've never read it, never read his books, but he said something relevant, so there's the quote. And yeah, so that's something, anorexia. There's this, there's that. So there's this compulsion to not feel any emotion other than happiness or neutrality, and that anything other is a disease. I know I'm hammering the point home, but I want to get on to the last part, which is not really the last part, but the final thing, which you might have thought of instantly when I brought this up, is drugs, right? Like, human beings as a fact, don't have too much infinite control over their own emotions. But fortunately, we do have the ingenuity to come up with chemicals and find chemicals that will let us indirectly control our own emotional states. So, if you feel like you don't have enough energy, you can take a stimulant. If you feel like you have too much anxiety, you can take an anxiolytic, etc. And that way you can sort of, by proxy, affect your emotional state. I'll talk about that later. What I mean is, it's a question of ontology when it comes to the metaphysics of freedom and liberty. And I guess I'll talk about that in a different clip, because it's kind of beyond the scope of this clip. Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to talk about. I'm sick of living in this place. Just accept emotions. And let's like fucking back up a little bit. I'm not here saying, oh, I'm the best. I love the fact that it's healthy for a human being to embrace suffering and to do things that are painful. No. I just want to make it clear, I'm complaining about this. I wish the neoliberals were right, and that you could just experience hedonistic pleasure for the rest of your life and actually be truly happy. But it's not true, and it sucks that it's not true. I hate the fact that it's not true, and I wish with all my heart that it was true, because I hate doing things I hate working out, I hate eating healthy food, I hate all of this shit, and I most of the time don't even bother to do it, because I fucking hate it. Like, I hate all of this painful stuff in life, and it sucks that you have to do it. And everyone agrees that it sucks, and I wish the neoliberals were right by coming up with excuses like fat acceptance or any of these other ridiculous things, that there's actually, or Tinder or any of these things, that there's actually, you don't have to experience pain. But the truth is, unfortunately, as much as I hate it, you do have to experience pain. And I'm not just pain, but the whole breadth of human emotion. And it's probably, whether you can say it's a positive or a negative, it doesn't matter, you just sort of have to do it.
In the neoliberal performative society, negativities, such as orders, prohibitions, and punishments, give way to positivities, such as motivation, self-optimization, and self-realization. Disciplinary spaces are replaced with zones of well-being. Pain loses any connection with power and rule. It is depoliticized and becomes merely a matter for medicine. Be happy is the new formula of rule. The positivity of happiness pushes aside the negativity of pain. Happiness is employed as positive emotional capital to ensure that individuals possess a permanent capacity to perform. The subjugated are not even aware of their subjugation. They think they are free. They exploit themselves without the need for any external compulsion, and in doing so, they believe that they are realizing themselves. Freedom is not curtailed, but exploited. The appeal to be free produces a compulsion that is far more devastating than the injunction, be obedient.
So this is the Staedtler pigment liner. and this is the Pigment Micron. Just two great pens, just two excellent pens. Yeah, little, you can see the tip there, the nib, as one might say. This one too. I think I prefer slightly the Pigment Micron, especially the design. Like, I always like the color of the Pigment Micron, like the beige, kind of like this sort of 90s computer box type beige color. Yeah, just those are like the gold standard of technical pens, really. Let's talk freedom. Let's talk about freedom. What is it? Been thinking about it recently. What's going on with that? In essence, I've talked about the sort of point of freedom in the past in a video, in my opinion, right? Because it's in the way. Anyway, in my opinion, because a lot of people they have freedom as an axiom, that it's an axiom, like it's desirable because it's desirable. It's sort of just a fundamental. I don't like that way of thinking. In my opinion, freedom is desirable because it's a solution to the problem of human diversity. If everyone in the world is playing, is under the same rules and the environment, the game, playing the same game, and the game's super strict, then there are some people who are going to get on really well in that game, but a good chunk of people are not going to, and that's going to cause a lot of problems for a functioning society. It's going to cause a lot of friction between those groups. Some people are going to benefit massively, other people are going to get left behind, and the stricter the rules of the game, the stricter the game, the less freedom, then the narrower group you're helping out there. And so the point of freedom is to allow some play in the rules so that a wider array of people feel like they can live under the rules, or maybe not want to play the game but are just okay with playing the game. They're not gonna become violent and crazy and rub up against, cause too much friction. Everyone is kind of free in a sense to do the sort of thing they want to do, and you don't get too many problems with that sort of stuff, right? So that's the point of freedom. Now the neoliberals have come up with a great solution, which is that, there's also a problem here, right? Which is that it's sort of a classic trade-off where you have this sort of baseline. Like, if, let's say, you have a situation where there are some people in society who, but there's always going to be this sort of, you have to draw a line of like who's acceptable in your society and who's not, right? Every society has to draw this, because you can't have a functioning society where everyone is totally free to do everything they want, or that, but there's going to be all sorts of problems, rape, murder, these sorts of things that the vast majority of people don't, consider it reasonable to not have that freedom to do that. But there are going to be some people who do it, and if you just let them do it, then you're going to have problems. No one wants that. He's going to have this stuff, right? And that's also going to create a lot of friction in your society. It's not going to work very well. So there is a too far. I think everyone agrees with this. There are some freedoms that aren't really freedoms because they infringe on other people's freedoms, right? There's a phrase like, my liberties end where the next man's begin, or something like that. Or where yours begin, something like that, right? Like, if I have the liberty to do whatever I want until it gets to the point where it's interfering with someone else's liberty. But even that is a grey area, like, how much does it, like, it's all a grey area. And it's very complicated and stupid. And so there's sort of two ends of the spectrum. You either maximize for, you either have a build for getting the most people not going crazy, right? The broadest appeal possible for your game, or you maximize for having a particular group be the happiest possible and fuck everyone else, right? Because if you go for a broad appeal situation, then everyone's going to be playing a game that they don't love, you know? They're going to be sort of like about it. Whereas if you go for, but no one's going to be too upset about it to where everything breaks down. Whereas if you go the other way, the people who like the game really fucking love the game, but everyone else hates it. This is basically what fascism versus anarchism is, I guess, right? Like on the one side you've got, well, we just get rid of all the people who don't like the game. And on the other side we have, well, everyone's gonna love the game. There's no way this can go wrong. Type of deal. I guess fascism versus egalitarianism would be better rather than anarchism. Because a lot of anarchists are just cults. But and I guess I was just thinking about different types of freedom and deciding which ones are important. Like, here's an example of one, right? Like, as I said, the classic golden rule for this is that your freedoms extend until it gets to the point where they interfere on someone else's freedoms. But at what point do you consider it to be a valid interference, right? Like, there could be something like, let's say, tall people, okay? There are some people who are very tall, and when they sit down in the cinema, the person behind them can't see. This is infringing on someone else's freedom. Do we ban all tall people from the cinema? Most people would say it's such a minor thing, it's not worth doing, right? Even though it is technically falling under this rule. I guess a more pertinent example might be land ownership, or maybe an even more pertinent example might be pronouns, right? Like saying you have to say X words. Some people get really mad when you tell them to do that for some reason. But I understand it, to be honest. I don't like being told what to do either. So yeah, why not just have a bunch of people, the problem with you guys is you're always trying to make one game, being like everyone has to play the same game. This is why I'm all about malleability and flows and fucking change shit in different places in different situations, you know? Bunch of different places, all playing different games, and then if you don't like the one you play in, you go somewhere else where you do like it. But like it's good though in this situation. It's actually good. It's a good way of doing this. It's all about that, right? Instead of just having a global, there's everyone, you know, like everyone think, oh, I'm a Marxist, and that means I want the whole world to be playing this game. What if there's some parts of the world that do better playing a different game? Some people don't like playing that game. Some people like playing a different game. You're never going to make a game that everyone likes. You can make a game that almost everyone likes. You can make a game that most people like, or even better, this is what the neoliberals have figured out, you can make a game where you can convince people. Firstly, you can convince people that they like it even if they don't like it. And secondly, you can convince people that if they don't like it, that's their fault. That's their fault. It's not a problem with the game. It's pretty genius. And if you do it really well, if you control people's desires well enough, then you can. This is this is their whole end game. This is the end game of this thing that we've built up. We didn't do nothing. They have built up. Is the idea, the end game is that everyone thinks they want it, and if everyone thinks they want it, then they don't run across these problems, right? Because the whole problem of having a non-free society is this variance in human behavior. But if you can get rid of that variance in human behavior, not through just killing them off like they used to do it in sort of old school fashion, but through the weird Skinnerbox techniques and medication and ideology. You can make something similar that works well enough for most people to get along with, and people will have a sense of dissatisfaction in their heart, but they won't have it. It will be so abstract that they won't direct it at the root structures. They will direct it at things. It can be directed from above, is what I'm saying. Read the system's neatest trick.
What have you said to me? Yeah, that my girl's been caught out creeping, and it's going down. I know where that boy sleeps, so it's going down. Said it's going down. Look what you did to me. Girl, I may not always be here.
So I found in the supermarket this stuff. Stag chili, classic chili con carne in a can. I'm gonna guess this is the most disgusting thing ever invented. It smells not bad. It actually smells kind of good. If it's basically, I'm pulling a high risk, high reward play with this shit, right? Because if it's good, it's super cheap and good, you know. But if it's bad, then it's bad, and I have to eat something bad. But I only have to do it once. Right. It's also kind of stuck in the can. Yeah. Oh, this looks gross. I mean, it smells like chili con carne. I guess I should probably have it with rice, but it's actually quite a lot. Like, it's plenty of food. What does it say to do on the back? This says, put it in a saucepan, stir it. That's all it says. So, that's what I'm gonna do. Hope it fits in a small bowl. And I hope it's not absolutely disgusting. But, yeah, we're just gonna cook it down. See if it's any good. Exciting times. Yeah, you know what you gotta get in your life? You gotta get G-bombs in your life. That's greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. This is allegedly what you need in your life. Not only is it edible, it's actually not bad. In fact, I would classify this as good. It's also very hot right now, so I'm eating it in tiny little chunks. But, yeah, I mean, on the pack, on the can, like, it's not crazy. I was actually surprised by this. Like, you would expect something like this to be full of, like, crazy shit. But it's just water, beef, beans, tomatoes, tomato puree, onion, red and green peppers, modified starch, it's just a thickener, sugar, spices, diced green jalapeno pepper, chili powder, salt, garlic, and rapeseed oil. I mean, the rapeseed oil isn't ideal, but like, none of those ingredients are particularly bad. You find rapeseed oil in almost everything. So yeah, it just tastes like a chili con carne. It's not the best I've ever had, but it's not the worst, far from the worst. I've made significantly worse chili con carnes than this. Has a pretty good spice mixture, nice level of heat. I might buy this. A beans review, yeah, not bad. I will say, too salty. However, this is my own fault, because really, if you're having chili con carne, you should have it over a bed of rice, and you don't season the rice, so it should be too salty on its own, so that it seasons the rice and then soaks in and everything's balanced. So, my own fault for just having it with some bread instead of some, like, a bowl of rice. In future, I will remember to have a whole bowl of rice with it, and then it will balance the flavoring. But actually good. Good quality poverty food. I don't remember exactly how much it cost, but it was pretty damn cheap, and you can taste the cheapness. Definitely very, very low quality beef, but I'm fine with that. Like, traditionally in a stew, like a chili con carne, they would have used, like, you're supposed to use low quality meat. That's why stews exist, so you can low and slow cook down low quality meat and season it with other stuff and make it taste good. Loads of beans. Love beans. Eat loads of beans. Trying to eat more beans. More beans and less fried shit. Not that I eat too much. I just want to cut down on the amount of, like, white flour that I eat, really. It's not ideal. There's my review of beans.
Beans are the richest source of resistant starch, which means that a portion of the carbohydrates are not able to be enzymatically degraded. And because of that, it can't be utilized as calories. They're instead fermented by bacteria in the gut.
Right.
Now, the more you eat these beans on a regular basis, you build up the bacteria that digests them better, and you stop producing gas from them.
Ah, there you go.
Now, when you're eating the greens and beans and mushrooms, and when you're eating all these foods in your diet, the bacterial biofilm becomes more adherent to the villi in the small intestines. See, the small intestines is like a hose, right? That's a curly hose going all around. And the lumen, or the center of the hose, has like a peach fuzz, or like a felt on the interior wall, the lining, that's like, that are like the villi, or like finger-like projections,
right?
Increasing the surface area by more than tenfold. And stuck onto those villi, that surface, are this adherent bacteria biofilm. That builds up because you eat a regular bean eater. You eat green vegetables, beans and mushrooms and onions and raw onion, and you build up this adherent biofilm. Now, this adherent biofilm lowers the glucose, the rate at which glucose passes through the villi now. So when you eat a mango or some oatmeal, the glycemic load of that oatmeal is lower, and the mango is lower.
Is that
There's
right?
not as much glucose. It takes longer to get the glucose into your bloodstream. So your insulin response isn't as high. So it's protective against diabetes, makes you live longer.
And weight gain, I'm assuming.
And protective against weight gain.
Yeah.
Now, this is much more effective than taking probiotics or taking yogurt or taking sauerkraut or fermented foods, because those bacteria pass through you. Whereas when you build up the healthy bacteria by eating right, the biofilm and the favorable microbiome is more adherent, means it lives there, it remains there. It takes up more permanent residence there. And scientists call that the second meal effect. What that means is, not only the meal when you eat the beans, but the meals when you're not eating beans, you're getting the benefit from eating beans. So you're getting benefit from eating the beans in subsequent meals, and they call it the second meal effect, but it's really the third, fourth, fifth meal. It means any meal you eat, if you're a regular eater of beans, is going to have benefits as far as nutrient production, as far as lowering the glycemic effect.
Because of your intestine.
Because of the intestine microbiome from becoming a regular bean eater.
It's raining pretty hard, but of course you can't see that, really. Maybe if I don't know if I can point it in any of the directions. I'm watching a terrible anime called Okusama ga Seito Kaicho. 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 Designated. Let's start. I don't recommend watching this anime. I don't know why I'm watching it. That's Elizabeth Line.
Here's a good place to practice punches.
You want to find in punches? This is a very spacious station, by the way. And, yes, that's true. Just a guy down here.
It was spontaneous scoliosis.
I'm very excited. The design is very nice. I like the sort of futuristic carving effects. It looks like a very nice little throughway. Very spacious. I really like the design with the uplighting. It's very nice. It's very hard to record through these doors. They're very tinted and reflective. I'll show you my game line. Wow. There you go.
You know that regular Bean Eater clip? It's from this guy. So the reason I know that clip is because... Come on now. Because it was posted on the YouTube channel of Wolfpack, of all people, the band. And I think it's a little egregious, right? The whole... So this the guy that made this, I forget his name, Dr. something or other. Make sure to put Doctor. It's always very sus when people like put Doctor very conspicuously in their name. Let me get it up. Regular Bean Eater. Dr. Joel Furman. It's always sus when people feel the need to like, oh, by the way, I'm a doctor. Like that's kind of sus to me. But regardless, this guy, Dr. Joel Furman, or whatever the fuck I just said his name is, that video is a podcast posted on the Wolfpack channel. Wolfpack's a band, good band, funk band. And the video goes into detail about various advantages of various foods. It's pretty much stuff, you know, it's stuff that you shouldn't need to be told as an adult. It's basically just a guy saying, eat your fucking veggies, you idiot. And like explaining the science behind why you can't just not do it. Like he explains like the average, something like the average multivitamin pill has like X number of micronutrients, whereas a stem of broccoli has like thousands of different micronutrients. So you can't just not eat vegetables, and the damage that it will do if you whatever. The point being, he says some questionable things in the video. Even in when I put it in, you just saw it back there. You saw that I put a citation needed thing because he will just say things. He's not the biggest like citation guy. He will just say things, and the crazy thing is that linked below that video, it says like go further down the rabbit hole in the description, and there's a link to a talk. I don't know if it's the same guy or something else. He looks like a vegan, I'll tell you that much. Like it's some vegan conference, the guy looks like a vegan. And he's talking about essentially pleasure bad. Don't do anything pleasurable in your life. Just eat no meat, nothing enjoyable, just eat salad for every meal, and then you'll live longer, and everything's cocaine and bad. And Joel Furman, Dr. Guy, he also loves talking about how everything is cocaine and heroin and bad. He loves talking. I just today, I've never looked further into this, but I just today looked further into him and watched a talk that he gave. And in that talk, he talked about like he related eating unhealthy foods to drug addiction, and he says a lot of bullshit. Is my point here. They all say a lot of bullshit because they're all about extending lives just for no point, just for no reason, mainly out of fear of death. Like the big thing he always talks about is it's anti-carcinogenic, this thing, or the processed meat is a carcinogen, stuff like this. Like everything's about cancer. My brother, you're going to get cancer and die. Everyone gets cancer and dies. You're either going to get cancer or heart disease, or you're going to die in a car accident. This is what's going to happen to you. You're going to get cancer, you're going to get heart disease, or you're going to die in a car accident. It's just going to happen. It's a 1 in 33.333 chance which one, and you know, take your pick. You're going to get one of them. So you may as well just make peace with death now. I'm not the biggest fan of cancer. I saw cancer happen to my own mother. It wasn't fun to watch. Fuck, it was actually pretty fucked up, you know. Not fun, that whole cancer thing. However, You know what causes cancer? Being alive. Being alive causes cancer. Every day, every time your DNA multiplies, you're just taking a risk that it becomes cancerous. Like, you can do things to mitigate it, but you can't escape death. You just can't. And we've lost the concept as a society, as a culture, of the good life. We've lost the concept of the good life. Everyone just wants to live as long as possible, because we have no concept of living a good life and then dying honorably or whatever. We just have a concept of living as long as possible for its own sake, because dying is scary. Dying is not scary. I mean, I'm terrified of death, right? I'm terrified of death, but on a logical level, there's mainly my animal instincts, my amygdala, that makes me scared of death. On a logical level, it's very easy to reason yourself out of death. Fear of death. It's incredibly easy. Here's how it goes. Death is, by definition, the lack of experience. And if death is the lack of experience, that means you can never experience death. So why would you be you can only ever experience approaching death, you can never actually experience death itself. So why would you be scared of something that you can physically never experience? There we go. Easy. Bam. That's from Super Hebe, by the way. I just think people don't have this concept of the good life. That's why when these guys tell you you can't eat white flour, you can't eat white rice, you can't eat meat, you can't have any fun, you gotta run 10 miles a day, you gotta run 10 miles a day and lift weights and don't play computer games and go to church, or don't go to church, whoever they're talking to you about, or only eat meat, or don't eat pizza ever, or don't do drugs, or don't watch anime, don't jerk off, all of this stuff is just anti-fun bullshit, right? Everyone agrees the good things about life are hanging out with your friends and having fun. And yet everyone also agrees, for some reason, that that's the last thing we should be doing. Fuck you, buddy. We should experience the full range of human emotions. All of these people who are like, they say, you get rid of the talk that was linked in the Wolfpack video, it said you get rid of pleasure so you can experience happiness. I think what he meant was like fulfillment in your life. This is some bullshit. You get rid of pleasure, you're fucking insane. You're batshit fucking insane.
I still think everything in moderation, even moderation.
Everything in moderation, even moderation. Listen.
You could use some more moderation too.
I could use some more moderation, particularly in my consumption of white flour products. I agree. I could use some more moderation in my consumption of tendies and flour products. Processed carbohydrates. I'm completely aware of this and I'm working on it, okay? It's a slow, gradual process. You've seen me working on it, though, right?
Yeah.
Supposedly. Say yes for the video. Say yes.
Sometimes.
Say yes. Say yes for the video, though.
Sometimes.
No. But
occasionally.
Okay, but we're gonna say, whatever. Okay.
You have your moments.
I'm a regular bean eater, okay? I eat beans from time to time. Pretty regularly. Not gonna eat fucking salad for every meal. That's what the doctor guy wants. He says you should have a salad for the main dish of one of your meals every day should be a salad. You're fucking batshit insane.
I mean, no one eats salads that are healthy, so it makes sense.
I mean, no, he means a salad with no oils. His diet in his book is 0 oil. You should get all your fats from nuts and seeds.
I see.
Cut out all oil and fat, all animal products as well. He's a vegan.
Yeah.
And have a salad as one of your main meals every day. And this will make you live longer. Oh, I'm sure it will make you live longer if you don't fucking kill yourself by the time you're 35 because you're eating fucking salad every day. As you can see, or maybe you can't, but there's no light streaming into the windows. The day is over. The day is over, the day shift is over. Now it's time for some kind of night shift. Transhumanism. Yeah, CGP Grey. Kinda less wrong, kinda less wrong. Fuck my fucking butt on my guitar. Ow! I have a mouth ulcer. So in here.
Why was Hitler able to change Europe so much and turn Germany, which had been a shithole after World War I, into this ultimate powerhouse that threatened an entire continent? It's because he was living in service to this greater idea. And when you tap into that as a gamer...
I went on a rant about how great TF2 is. I got bored of TF2. It's been 4 days since I recorded that clip, I think. I just went back to playing CS. I think the problem is I'm shit. And it's very hard to get better without a proper matchmaking system, or at least knowing some people. I guess, like, I'll just put it this way, this is a call to action. If I know you, if we're friends or acquaintances on the internet and you play TF2, then get in contact with me, because I would like to play TF2 with you. Yeah, the problem is, like, trying to learn how to use the loose cannon was kind of where I stopped playing, because it's a very tricky weapon to get the hang of, and playing on servers where everyone's miles better than you, you don't even really get a chance to practice. And because TF2 is a really old game, there's not many people who have just started playing or are bad anymore, so it's very hard to get the practice that you need. You know, in CS when I first started, obviously there's a similar very steep learning curve at the beginning, but you get over that in like a couple of days, and then you're playing against silvers, at least back then. I couldn't imagine getting into CS now, you would just get fucking stomped every game. But back then, in 2016 or whatever, 2015, maybe earlier, it must have been 2015 I think. You know, playing against silvers was easy, and then you'd slowly work your way up and blah blah blah, but this is not the case anymore. And it's not the case in playing TF2 on community servers. I don't know how to get good. I guess, I don't know, I still feel like CS is just my game. I mean, at this point it has to be my game, nothing else even comes close. Like in TF2, if I was willing to put 1,000 hours of intense practice in, I could probably get good. But the problem is it's not fun to practice. It's not fun to learn or play against people who are just a way higher skill level than you, and you don't even really get a chance to practice. So it's just whatever. You know what I should really do is play I Divine Cybermancy.
Press T to watch the weapons tutorial. Now I've heard you really need to watch all of these. So I've heard that all of these are important. Well, fuck that. Think I can figure this out. Uh-oh. Okay, never mind. What the fuck? Okay. Fuck. Uh-oh, I'm bleeding out. How do I stop bleeding out? Fuck. Fuck.
Yeah, I'm thinking I probably should have watched the tutorials. Anyway, seems like a fun game. I might run into ever since I've been trying to make my videos a bit more of a consumable length, which really I shouldn't be, because like one of my most viewed videos is a 6-hour long video. Like when I make the longer videos, I guess it counts for multiple views because people will like stop the video and come back the next day, or maybe the longer videos have better retention, so they get recommended to more people. They tend to get more views is what I'm saying, even though my average length of video is like an hour or more. But I'm trying to make videos that like I feel like I could consume. Cause I feel like I couldn't consume 6 hours of something rambling, but if I edit it down to a nice... Also, I can't edit properly 6 hours of rambling. I'd run out of space on my hard drive, but I can't make it look good like this video does, or interesting at least. Maybe it doesn't look good, but... and the problem I have is I record so many clips, and most of them... I just talk about like some inane bullshit, which is like maybe an interesting concept, but I will just ramble about it and go like on wild tangents. And this is like, even when I have stuff that I think might be interesting, I'm looking back at it and I'm like, this segment where I talk about this like small topic, which would be kind of interesting, goes on for longer than any other segment in the video. Like I can't just put it in. Like what happened was I had a segment that I found on my phone. I was talking about, well, I had recorded it on my phone. I was going to put it in the video where I was talking about how, like, for all my talk about being, you know, knowing how to be sort of somewhat self-sufficient in a shit hits the fan scenario or post-collapse ideology, these sorts of things. For all my talk, I really don't know what I'm doing, and I like in an actual shit hits the fan scenario, in an actual like society collapses scenario, I don't know how. I'm not like, as I said, I'm not Blue Unicorn. I don't know how to forage for food. I'm not Jelaine. I don't know how to make soap. Like the problem is, I know the theory behind a lot of this stuff, but I don't know the practical skills. Like I know theoretically how you make soap. I know the chemical process that goes into making soap, but I don't know how to do that. You know, I've never done it. The only things I can kind of do is some food storage. Like I have made some very mid kefir and some very mid sauerkraut. I know roughly how lacto fermentation works. Even if I'm not the best at it, I at least know the theory behind it, and I've done it a couple times, enough to vaguely know how to store food. But I don't know a lot of these practical skills, you know, and this might be a problem. And then I went on a like 20-minute tangent about CSGO. Because I was saying that I wanted to say, like, when in CSGO I want to practice, I go deagle only, and my teammates don't get mad at me as long as I keep dropping them weapons. So that's my strat in the apocalypse. I would just do my own thing, and as long as I can offer something to someone, as long as I have some sort of marketable skill, because I'm not gonna be a good hang, you know, I'm too autistic to be, people want to pair up with me because I'm nice, or fun to hang around with. But they might want to pair up with me, which is very important, to be a part of a community, because no one survives alone. They might want to hang out with me if I can just give them something. So learning some sort of practical, producible skill is useful. But I went on a whole tangent about CSGO in order to say that. And it was a fine tangent, but it was just so long. It was so fucking long. And there's another video where another clip where I went on for way too long, talking about this very basic premise, which is, I don't know how people play a lot of modern games. I don't know how you can deal with it, because you've got the examples I used are FIFA and Battle Royale games like PUBG, where, you know, in a Battle Royale, it's basically RNG whether you win or not, because a lot of whether you know how well you do depends on the weapons you get from random drops, which is just something you have no control over as a player. And you know, even the little control you do have, because there are certain areas in the map you can choose to drop with better spawn rates for good weapons, even that is random because you don't know how the other players are going to behave. It's supposed to be a risk reward strat, right? That you go for the place with the better weapons, but that's where everyone's going to go. So you're also risking getting in a fight early. But that's just random too. You don't know how the other players are going to behave. Everyone might decide it's too risky and then you get a free gun, or everyone might converge on it. It's just random. So I don't know how people can fucking deal with that shit. It's just, I don't know how you can play a game where it's just random if you win or lose. And same with FIFA. You know, so much of that game is either pay to win. Well, really, it's random. It's just random, the behavior of your AI teammates. You know, whether they decide to help you out or not. And then you can pay money to FIFA, to EA, to like slightly improve that random chance. I don't know how the fuck anyone can play that game. It's fucking retarded and stupid. That I just said, that was 30 minutes of ramble in my original clip. I don't think anyone wants to see that. It's just boring. Sometimes you just gotta go green. Sometimes you just gotta go cyber. I'm kind of a cyber guy, but at the same time, you know, I'm not an anprim, but I'm not exactly allergic to this stuff. I'm not exactly a transhumanist either. I think a lot of things about transhumanism really suck. Then again, I think a lot of things about primitivism really suck. Antibiotics are pretty great. You know, I talk a lot about how progress is a myth and, you know, how modernity sucks. There are some things about modernity that are fucking great, and we happen to live in the tiny window of time where antibiotics have been invented and haven't been completely resisted yet. We live in the short window of time where they work, and that's a wonderful thing. That's great. There's a couple other things like that too, but that's one of the big ones. Pretty damn glad about the existence of antibiotics. Very amusing that a lot of times when you see well, never mind, but you know, at the end of the day, I've never found anything more suitable than cyber nihilism, which was sort of seems like a weird, like not really well invented. It's basically two texts. It's two texts ever, and yet this is like all I have to go on in terms of people who agree with me. You know, a lot of the that obviously all I can do is take as many influences as possible. What I want is we're all chilling in our own little places, connected by some sort of cool peer-to-peer mesh network, internet free software thing, made with electricity generated from algal pools and wind farms and solar panels, and probably nuclear power. And there's no government to tell us what to do, and but also like none of the bad people around, you know, none of the people the rapists, you know. No rapists. We don't have rapists, but we don't have governments either, because they're kind of, you know, the governments, they like well, you know what the governments like to do. I won't get into that on YouTube, but you know what they like to do. That's the ideal, right? We're all sort of vibing. But how do you create a world like that? You don't. You just. At the same time, I'm like very resistant of this solar punk trend. Very resistant of this solar punk trend. I think it's maybe a bit scavenged computers. This is a good thought. Scavenged computers. Scavenged computers. Scavenged parts. These sorts of things. No more agriculture. We get rid of agriculture. I'm not a primitivist because I like bicycles. You know, the primitivists don't like bicycles. They're like, well, it requires global trade networks. You need to get the rubber from a tree in some place and the aluminium from the ground in another place. You know what's cool about bicycles? You can make them out of bamboo. Did you know this? You can make bamboo bikes and they work perfectly well. They're lightweight and durable. I think I should get myself a bamboo bike. That seems really cool. The rubber's a bit harder, but the bamboo, I mean the spokes and the tires are still made of metal, but it's kind of worth it. Like it's a good use of metal if you're going to use metal for anything. You know, I feel like I don't need a detailed political program. You know what I don't need is to write a manifesto. There's enough manifestos in the world. The reason you might have a political program, if it's not because you somehow deluded yourself into thinking that your opinion matters, might be to guide yourself, which I think is useful. But I think I've mostly gotten that stuff figured out in terms of politics, or I don't know. I think there's a lot of stuff about the future that's not ideal. And I think a lot of people just come to the conclusion that there's nothing that can be done, or maybe that it's not even desirable to do anything. That, that stuff. I think we should get rid of the economy. We should get rid of it. Everyone's talking about what to do about it. I say, we don't need one. Our ancestors never had one. I'm talking about our real ancestors, not like a couple thousand years ago. I'm talking 10,000 years ago. They didn't need one. So you can live without one, so why do we need it? I'm talking way less people. No one wants to talk about overpopulation. No one wants to talk about it. God damn it. You know, these liberals, they're always like, well, you should not be able to just buy a gun. You shouldn't just be able to buy a gun, right? You need to, if you want to have the power, complete power over someone else's life, you know, like, you shouldn't just be able to do that. Like, you should have at least some sort of checks and balances in place if you're going to have complete power over someone else's life. You know, that you should have to show some competency or have some sort of background check at the very least. And yet when I say not everyone should be allowed to have children for the same reason, suddenly I'm a eugenicist. Suddenly I'm a fucking eugenicist. Look, call me what you will, okay? It's delusional to tell yourself that overpopulation isn't a problem. It's absolutely delusional. Every problem can boil down to overpopulation, if you really want it to. Although maybe you shouldn't want it to. But saying that it doesn't have any impact, that's a bit ridiculous. Fewer people, better people. Fewer technologies, but better technologies. It's basically a whole quality over quantity type of thing going on here, you know? It's kind of the overall through line. Fewer governments, but better governments. No, we don't even want those. We don't even want those. The problem is, as I see it, the big difference between small government and no government is, if you imagine the smallest government possible, that is one person with ultimate authority, it's fascism. The smallest possible government is like absolute monarchy. It's even worse than fascism. A tiny group of people with massive amounts of power. Worse. Absolute monarchy is worse than fascism. If you look at this historically, there's just sort of a weird trend in the 20th century where dictators were bad. But monarchy has been the most popular political system outside of anarchy, or, you know, and even they had some monarchist tendencies. I'm talking about like rice kingdoms and stuff back in the day, but, you know, pretty much most of human history, or maybe not most, but a significant portion of human history, pretty big portion. You know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna say most. I don't have any evidence to back up this claim, I'm just gonna say most. Has been some sort of hereditary monarchy, and most of the time they weren't insane fascist dictators like the ones in the 20th century. So that's kind of a weird thing that happened. But anyway, that's small government. And if you think about it, if you really think about it, the sort of anarcho-syndicalist, infinite meetings, everyone votes on everything at direct democracy, is the biggest government possible, because everyone is part of the government. So when, you know, both sides are kind of not lying. Libertarians who say they want small government, but are secretly fascists, I know you, I can see you, libertarians who are secretly fascists, I can see you watching my videos. You know, they know what they want when they say small government. I don't know if the anarcho-syndicalist types know what they want though. I don't know if they know what they want. I don't know if they know what they're gonna get, is what I'm getting at here. I think they know what they want, but I don't think they know what they're gonna get. You know what I want? What I want is computers that work like this, sort of. This is sort of a computer that works. There's some things that don't work about it. I need to replace the cooling, the whole cooling system. The fan's a bit fucked. Definitely need to replace the what's it called? Thermal paste. At the very least. I'm gonna do a test run first though, with another ThinkPad that's broken, so that I know what I'm doing. I need to get around to that. I've been saying I'm gonna do this for years, I just haven't done it. And I always plan to do it before summer, because then it's summer and the computer overheats. Because the cooling system doesn't work properly. And I never fucking do it. Because I'm an idiot. An idiot. But I should do it. Yeah, I don't know. You gotta be separated from all of this stuff. You don't want to participate in it. You really don't. You don't want to have any of this stuff going on, you know? But you don't want to, like, you don't want to meme yourself into thinking self-sufficiency is real. Communal self-sufficiency is real. It sucks. You know how great it would be if you could just go out into the wilderness and ride? It would be sick. But that just sucks. You don't really want to do it. You really don't. I mean, you probably could. Some of you might survive, but it's gonna be tough. Probably better to have a whole community together doing it. But then that sucks. You ever been in a community? You ever been in a fucking community? That shit is the worst. Being in a community is the fucking worst. That fucking sucks. Yeah. So I think the only solution is total extinction, really. How do we get there? That's the question. Bill Gates knows, but he's not telling. He's just buying up farmland. Why? That's for you to find out. This mouth ulcer is quite painful. I think it's a mouth ulcer. I don't know what it is. It might be a cut. Like, I might have somehow made a cut in my gums. I don't know what's going on with it, but it's not pleasant. All I'm gonna do is sit here, make some music from time to time, make some videos from time to time, ride the tiger. I'm riding the tiger. I'm already riding the tiger. Here's what I am. Well, more than riding the tiger, my goal is to emulate what's been successful in nature. I look outside and I don't think to myself, how can I don't know, just like, you know, like, biomimetics is what I'm trying to do here, right? Like, even engineers and scientists, they know this. So I don't know why fucking philosophers and politics people haven't figured this out, when engineers and scientists figured it out. This what about, you know, why do you think you're going to be able to figure something out yourself when there's already millions of years of evolution to come up with crazy ideas that has some good ideas? You can look at what works and what doesn't work already in nature, instead of having to have these stupid fucking ideas, like, and then just trial them, and then they fail and people die, or they fail and whatever. It's biomimetics. So I look at the creatures that are very successful, and you might think I'm talking about, I don't know, I don't know what you might think I'm talking about, but I'm talking about the ones that are really very successful, the ones that haven't changed in millions of years and are still massively abundant. So the ones the big through line really is that they tend to be very simple and efficient. The big ones to me are moss, lichens and algae, These are like incredibly simple and incredibly effective ways to make a life form. And I think moss is where it's all at, and lichen and algae, they're all where it's at. They'll just grow anywhere. This is the thing, right? They'll just grow anywhere. That's the first thing to take note of. They'll grow anywhere, and they'll just take root, although they won't because none of them have roots, but they'll just set up shop and just vibe. And they're doing their own thing enough that they're like fine, you know, they're just vibing, they're getting on well, they're reproducing, they're spreading, they're surviving for millions and millions of years, barely having to change because they're so efficient and good at being organisms, at being alive, right? But also, they're not like bothering anyone, you know? Like they're just on a wall somewhere, and it's more hassle than it's worth to get rid of them. That's kind of the vibe I'm going for, right? With my life. Like, just keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple, stupid. Right? Keep it clean. Keep it simple and clean. Vibe. Keep it simple and clean. Vibe and reproduce. Right? But not through sexual reproduction, because that's cringe. Reproduce mimetically. If you're watching this video, then you're that step, by the way. You're that step. So let's go through this once again. Keep it simple and clean. Reproduce mimetically, and make it so that it's more hassle than it's worth to get rid of you. That's basically the goal. Keep it simple and clean. Reproduce mimetically, and make it more hassle than it's worth to get rid of you. And then once you've got that set up, within that space, the vibe part is quite malleable. Malleability is also a kind of an important part of this, right? You want to be adaptable. There's lichens and mosses and algae on every environment on planet Earth except for Antarctica. There's lichens and mosses and algae everywhere. They adapt to their surroundings. Because they're so simple, they have very few needs. Very not complicated needs. There's a goat's mate here. Okay, well, that's basically the vibe. Those are the vibes. And thanks for watching.